Hello, and welcome to Classic Country Backstories. I'm Colleen Gallagher. For more than 4 decades, Alan Jackson has been the steady voice of traditional country music, telling stories of faith, family, heartache, and home. From his small-town Georgia roots to sold-out arenas, his songs became the soundtrack of everyday American life. In this episode, we take a look back at Alan Jackson's remarkable career, his timeless hits, and the emotional final concert that marks the end of an era in country music. Nashville, Tennessee, country music capital of the world, home of the Grand Ole Opry, where singers and dreamers come seeking stardom. Join me as we learn about the lives and careers of those who built this town on Classic Country Backstories. Alan Eugene Jackson was born October 17, 1958, in Noonan, Georgia. His father, Joseph, was a mechanic at the Ford Motor Company assembly plant, and his mother, Ruth, was a dietitian and school cafeteria manager. He has 4 older sisters. He lived with his parents and his sisters in a house that was built around his grandfather's tool shed. He grew up listening to primarily gospel music until his friend turned him on to Gene Watson, John Anderson, and Hank Williams Jr. He joined a band called Dixie Steel following graduation from high school. He worked as a construction worker and a forklift operator while he played small clubs throughout Georgia. He married his high school sweetheart, Denise, in December of 1979. Alan and Denise have 3 daughters, Maddie, Allie, and Danny. When Alan was 27, he and Denise moved to Nashville so that he could pursue a music career. His first job was working in the mailroom of the Nashville network. He would sit in the audience during the taping of You Can Be a Star. During a 1986 episode, he was picked from the audience to sing them into a commercial break. He sang He Stopped Lovin' Her Today. He caught the attention of guest judge Keith Stegall, who would later produce 19 of his albums. In 1985, he got his big break when his wife Denise, who was a flight attendant at the time, gave one of his demo tapes to Glenn Campbell. Alan became the first artist to sign to Arista Records Nashville. He released his first album, Here in the Real World, in 1990. He wrote most of the songs on the first album. The title track went to the number 3 position on the charts. 2 more songs, Wanted and Chasing That Neon Rainbow, were top 5 hits. The album remained on the Billboard charts for more than a year. He was nominated for 6 CMA Awards in 1989. Jackson's second album, Don't Rock the Jukebox, was released in 1991, where he earned his first number 1 single, I'd Love You All Over Again. The album gave him 3 more number 1s with Someday, Dallas, and Love's Got a Hold on You, as well as Midnight in Montgomery, which made it to the number 3 position on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart. Alan Jackson was asked to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry in 1991 and was inducted by Roy Acuff and Randy Travis. Alan Jackson also co-wrote several songs on Randy Travis's High Lonesome album. He released his first Christmas album, Honky Tonk Christmas, in 1993. A Lot About Livin', A Little About Love was Jackson's 3rd album. From this project were number 1s, She's Got the Rhythm, I Got the Blues, co-written by Randy Travis, and Chattahoochee. Tonight I Climb the Wall, Mercury Blues, and Who Says You Can't Have It All were all top 5s for Jackson. Chattahoochee earned him a 1994 CMA Single and Song of the Year awards. Album number 4, Who I Am, earned Jackson 4 more number 1s, Summertime Blues, Living on Love, Gone Country, and I Don't Even Know Your Name. In late 1994, Clay Walker went to number 1 with If I Could Make a Living Out of Lovin' You, which was co-written by Alan. Jackson released a Greatest Hits collection album in 1995. It contained 17 hits, 2 newly recorded songs, I'll Try and Tall Tall Trees, and one that had not been released on Here in the Real World called Home. The first 2 songs made it to number 1. Alan Jackson headlined the Fruit of the Loom Comfort Tour in 1995. It was a $40 million deal. The 100-date tour began in January that year in New Orleans. The next album, Everything I Love, was released in 1996. It included a #1 hit, There Goes, and Who's Cheatin' Who, a 1980s Charlie McClain cover, which made it to the #2 position. A House with No Curtains was the 5th release of this album and became his first release since 1989 not to reach the top 10. He was the most nominated artist at the 29th TNN Annual Music City News Awards broadcast in June of 1995. His 6 nominations included Best Entertainer, Male Artist, Vocal Collaboration, Album, Single, and Video. High Mileage was the next album, released in 1998. The first single, I'll Go On Lovin' You, went to #4 on the charts. Right on the Money, written by Phil Vassar and Charlie Black, was a #1 for Jackson. Alan Jackson and his wife Denise separated for a few months in 1998 due to strains of his career, but then reconciled and have remained together, committed to their relationship and family. Alan's next album, Under the Influence, was released in 1999. Alan Jackson made a bold move during the 1999 CMA Awards when George Jones was asked to trim his spot to 90 seconds. Jones boycotted and sang Choices in its entirety. When Alan's spot came up, he went into Papa Top, sang half the song before relaunching into Choices in support of George Jones. The crowd went wild and stood up. Then Jackson simply walked off the stage. I guess you can't just mess with country music royalty. Country music had shifted during the 1990s and early 2000s to a more pop style, but Alan and George Strait criticized the state of country music when they recorded Murder on Music Row. Even though the song was never released as a single, it became the highest non-seasonal charting album cut to appear on the Hot Country Singles and tracks in the broadcast data systems era. The pair performed the song on the 2000 Academy of Country Music Awards. Alan Jackson was inducted into the Georgia Music Hall of Fame on October 22, 2001 in Atlanta. Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning? In tribute to those who lost their lives in the terrorist attacks. The single became a hit. He debuted the song on the 2001 CMA Awards, and the song became a major highlight of the show. The next day, his website crashed from requests to download the song. The song came suddenly and was not slated to be released as a single, but the live performance began getting airplay and was then released as a single. Both the live and recorded versions of the song were then released on his 2002 album, Drive. Alan released his second Christmas album, Let It Be Christmas, in October of 2002. Jeannie Kendall contacted Jackson about recording a duet together. He suggested Timeless and True Love, which was released on her first solo album in 2003. At the 2002 CMA Awards, he set the record for most nominations in a single year, with 10. Many of those were as a result of Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning. The song was also nominated for a Grammy for Song of the Year. During the 2003 Academy of Country Music Awards, Alan's album Drive won Album of the Year and Video of the Year awards. A 5-mile stretch of Interstate 85 that runs through Newnan, Georgia, where he was raised, was renamed the Alan Jackson Highway. When he found out about the honor, he said, "I'm not sure I'm quite qualified for the main highway. Maybe they should have picked a dirt road or something." Alan Jackson began his 2004 tour in Fort Myers, Florida on January the 23rd. The tour was sponsored by Napa Auto Parts and included Jackson's endorsement on TV spots, where Jackson traveled all 50 states, with Martina McBride opening for some of the events. He released his first gospel album, Precious Memories, in early 2006, which was a request from his mother, who loved gospel music. The album went on to sell almost 2 million copies. A few months later, he released his next album, Like Red on a Rose. It was supposed to originally be a bluegrass album. Keith Stegall did not produce the project. Instead, Alison Krauss took the reins. The album turned out to be more of a contemporary sound, which was controversial with Jackson's fans. Some fans accused him of abandoning his traditional sound for a more commercial pop sound. While the project received critical acclaim, it was not considered a commercial success alongside his previous albums. In 2007, Denise Jackson released a book, It's All About Him, Finding the Love of My Life, about her life with Alan, their brief separation and recommitment to each other, and her commitment to Christianity. The book made it to the New York Times bestseller list. She released a gift book, The Road Home, in 2008. For the next album, Jackson returned to his neo-traditional sound with Good Times, released on March 4, 2008. Singles from the album include Small Town Southern Man, Country Boy, Good Time, I Still Like Bologna, and Sissy's Song. The latter was written for a friend of the Jackson family who worked in their house every day. Leslie Sissy Fitzgerald was killed in a motorcycle accident in mid-2007. Alan Jackson had a close relationship with George Jones. He mentioned Jones in the song Don't Rock the Jukebox, and George even appeared in the video. The song Playin' Possum was dedicated to George Jones. Jones also appeared in Jackson's video for Good Time. In 2008, George Jones was a surprise guest at Alan Jackson's CMT Giants ceremony, where he thanked Jackson for his friendship. Alan Jackson started his appreciation for cars young, saving money at the age 12 to buy his first significant car, a 1955 Ford Thunderbird. At 15, restoring it with his dad, he later sold it, but his wife Denise tracked it down and bought it back for him as a Christmas gift years later, highlighting a lifelong love of collecting vintage automobiles. Alan Jackson's 16th album, Freight Train, was released on March 30th, 2010. Singles from the album were It's Just That Way and Hard Hat and a Hammer. In November that same year, he released his second greatest hits album, 34 number ones. The album includes a cover of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, along with a duet with Zac Brown Band, As She's Walking Away. Also, in 2010, he was slated to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In January of 2011, Alan announced he was parting with Sony's owned Arista Nashville label. Then he announced a new deal with Capitol's EMI Records Nashville. It was a joint venture between ACR, Alan's Country Records, and Capitol. The records were released and marketed through Capitol's EMI Records Nashville. In 2012, he released the album 30 Miles West. In March 2013, he released his second gospel album, Precious Memories 2. Later that year, he released his first bluegrass album, simply titled The Bluegrass Album. Two singles were Blue Ridge Mountain Song and Blacktop. The album made it to the top of the Billboard Top Bluegrass chart and number 3 on the country chart. At George Jones' funeral on May 2, 2013, Alan sang He Stopped Loving Her Today at the close of the service held at the Grand Ole Opry House in Nashville. In 2014, Jackson recorded the opening credits song A Million Ways to Die for a film, A Million Ways to Die in the West, co-written with Seth MacFarlane and Joel McNeely. In August 2014, an exhibit was opened at the Country Music Hall of Fame celebrating Alan's 25th anniversary. He performed 2 residency dates, and the exhibit was filled with memorabilia from Alan Jackson's stellar career. His 25th anniversary Keepin' It Country tour began in Estero, Florida in January of 2015. His 20th studio album, Angels and Alcohol, was released in July of that year. The tour was extended in 2016 and 2017 with American Idol entertainer Lauren Alaina as his opening act. John Party and Brandy Clark also made guest appearances during most of the tour dates. In August of 2016, Legacy Records released the collection Genuine, The Alan Jackson Story, digitally on 3 CDs with 59 tracks, including 8 tracks that were released for the first time, which were in tribute to Merle Haggard. He released a new song, The Older I Get, for a future planned album. The album Where Have You Gone was released 4 years later with songs that were even more hardcore country than usual for Jackson. In 2017, Alan Jackson was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame by Loretta Lynn. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2018. In 2021, he made an appearance on the Today Show where he announced he had Charcot-Marie tooth disease. The disease is an inherited neurological disorder that affects the peripheral nerves responsible for transmitting signals between the brain, spinal cord, and the rest of the body. He stated, "It's been affecting me for years. It's getting more and more obvious, and I know I'm stumbling around on stage, and now I'm having a little trouble balancing, even in front of the microphone. So I just feel very uncomfortable." In March of 2022, Alan Jackson announced his One More for the Road tour. At a May concert in Milwaukee, Jackson announced the end of his touring career. He surprised many when he told the sold-out crowd, "This is my last road show." Alan Jackson is slated to perform his last full-length concert of his touring career on June the 27th, 2026 at the Nissan Stadium in Nashville. "We just felt that we had to end it all where it all started for me, and that's in Nashville, Music City, where country music lives," Jackson said. The 55,000-seat concert venue sold out almost immediately following the pre-sale in October of 2025. Jackson expressed being overwhelmed by the response, apologizing that not enough seats were available for everyone who wanted to attend. The final sold-out concert is called Last Call, One More for the Road, the finale. $1 per ticket will be donated to the CMT Research Foundation, an organization that funds research to find a cure for Charcot-Marie tooth disease, and matched by $2 per ticket from a generous donor. Alan Jackson's career stands as a reminder that country music doesn't need to be flashy to be powerful. It just needs to be real. From the very beginning of his career, he has stayed faithful to the sound and the stories that made him a legend. Long after the curtain call, Alan Jackson's legacy will live on through the songs that defined a lifetime of country music. That wraps up this episode of Classic Country Backstories. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the channel and leave us a comment. Until we see you next time, take care, God bless, and I'll see you later.